Well, I think it's been bad for not just tours and activities, but for the whole industry that we've had the Google monopoly for so long. I mean, no monopolies are really good for an industry, and that's 98% of all the traffic, or some incredibly large percentage, has been coming via Google, and we've had to pay their toll. And I don't think they've given a lot back to the industry.
As WIT marks its 20th year in 2025, we turn the spotlight on our community to tell their stories and share their views on the evolution of online travel and technology. Conversations on Turning 20 is the collective story of WIT. As a Chinese saying goes, 以古为鉴，可以知兴替. By using history as a mirror, one can understand the rise and fall of things.
When Viator first launched as a site that would offer customers experiences in the destination they were traveling to, we were creating a marketplace, and we really had no idea how easy or hard that would be. And it turned out to be incredibly easy. Tour operators, experience operators, people who were in the sightseeing business were intensely frustrated by the fact that when they got bookings in advance, which they liked, they often didn't get paid for them. And the reason was that, if somebody walked into a travel agency in, say, Liverpool in the UK and said, look, I'm going to be in Sydney, Australia, and I really want to book a tour to the wine growing district there, the Barossa Valley, the travel agent would look that up and they'd make the booking for them, but it would be a one-off thing. And when the tour company eventually sent the invoice to the travel agency in Liverpool, it wasn't really a priority for them to pay it because they're never going to send anybody there again. And that's not to say that all travel agents were like that. Of course they weren't. But enough of them were like that it was very frustrating for experience operators. They wanted those advanced bookings, they wanted the international customers, but it seemed the only way they could get them was from a hotel concierge the day before the people wanted to do the experience. Viator found it relatively easy to put together a wide range of operators in a large number of destinations around the world. So, before we knew it, we had 20 or 30,000 experiences on our platform, which was terrific. One of the really simple things we did was we paid everybody on the 15th of the month. So if somebody, if we got a booking and the person traveled in March, then the operator knew they were going to get paid on the 15th of April without any shadow of a doubt. And that news sort of spread like wildfire through the industry, and people said, hey, this internet thing is really good. We work with this company Viator. They market your product on the internet and they actually pay. And these were really simple things. The operators were like looking at the internet and saying, how do I even do that? Who do I get to do a website for me? We came along and said, well, you don't need a website. Just give us all your information. We'll take your brochure. We'll turn it into a listing on our website. And if we get bookings, we'll pay you for them. So it was a relatively simple process to get the business up and going and to build really strong and positive relationships with operators around the world. So, things were going along pretty well. We were growing, albeit slowly. And then this event happened that had a dramatic impact on the world. And that was the 9/11 terrorist bombings of the World Trade Center. Well, not bombings, but, well, you know what it was. And you might be thinking why I raised that. And the reason is that at that time, a number of the particularly US airlines and hotel groups, had gone in pretty deep with websites. They were pretty well invested. Not all of them, though. And what happened after 9/11 was that everybody in the US who had travel plans, they were all disrupted. All flights stopped. Nobody could move. If you wanted to get from A to B, you had to rent a car. The car rentals were flooded. But more importantly, the telephone lines just melted down. So if you were trying to call Delta or United or Marriott or Hilton or whatever, you were waiting for hours. And then people realized that with some of those carriers and some of those hotel groups, you could actually go on their website. And they went on their website and they found, oh, I can find my booking on here, and I can actually change my booking or get a refund or whatever it was they wanted to do, make a new booking. They could do it on the web. And people like that a lot more than sitting on the phone talking to a customer service agent. So, 9/11 was an incredibly sad and negative event. But for the online travel industry, it was like a rocket booster, because it opened people's eyes up to the fact that there is an alternative to visiting a travel agency or getting on the phone to a travel agency. And the alternative is Expedia, Travelocity, Marriott.com, UnitedAirlines.com, etc., etc. It really was fabulous for our industry. A really significant shift happens, and it began in the early 2000s. And, I guess it was, psychologists and sort of social analysts just looking at the way people were thinking about the world. And we started to see all these articles appearing about, things are not so important, but experiences are. There had been this sort of mantra in the 80s and 90s that you could summarize almost as, he who dies with the most stuff wins, or the most toys. In other words, collect things. That's what's going to bring you joy and happiness. And people, I guess, over time realize that that actually isn't the case. Material possessions have, they don't have the hold over you that perhaps the vendors of those possessions might think. But experiences, on the other hand, often which are either totally free, taking a walk in a beautiful park, or taking a guided tour of the Vatican Museum, or the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb, or whatever it is, those things provide the opportunity for lasting memories, educational experiences, sort of mind-expanding opportunities that can live forever in your mind. And society grabbed onto that and shifted from spending their money on snow globes and T-shirts when they went to San Francisco, and instead taking a trip out to Muir Woods, taking a trip up to the Napa or the Sonoma Valley, doing a walking tour of the city and learning about its cultural history, etc., etc. And people were coming home from those trips without the snow globe, without the T-shirt, but with a really terrific experience that was much more valuable to them. So that shift totally supported the growth of the experiences industry. Well, I think what the pandemic did more sort of specifically was that it really brought home to a lot of people that for them, travel is a need rather than just a want. Economists divide things into, you need housing, you need food, etc., etc. You want other things, you want a new stereo player, you want, a new jacket or whatever. And people realized at the end of COVID that they had this hole in their heart, and that hole was, I need to travel. Not only do I need to get away from where I am, but I need to get to somewhere. I need to learn about something new. I need to experience something new, because that's just a part of who I am. A part of us as earthlings, whatever we call ourselves, humans. We just, for many of us anyway, we want to get out and explore. And the pandemic took that away from us. And that revenge travel surge that we saw afterwards was a symptom of the fact that for many of us, it's a need. Well, I think it's been bad for not just tours and activities, but for the whole industry, that we've had the Google monopoly for so long. I mean, no monopolies are really good for an industry. And that's, 98% of all the traffic, or some incredibly large percentage, has been coming via Google. And we've had to pay their toll. And, I don't think they've given a lot back to the industry. I don't think they certainly didn't support, advertising platforms, like the likes of Viator and Get Your Guide and Klook, etc., when they were blindsided by the pandemic. Google didn't step up and say, well, we're going to look after you here. They basically continued to profit while others suffered. So I do think it'll be good when we get away from that and people have a much broader and more diverse set of choices for how they spend their advertising dollars. What that looks like exactly, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows what the answer to that is, but it's certainly going to be more diverse. I'm always laughing when I go along to the conference, whether it's WIT or Focusrite, and somebody says, online travel is broken. We're going to fix it with our new website or whatever. It's clearly not broken. It works really well. As Steve Hafner would say, when he looks at his website, it's great, but we can improve it, right? And that's the same for all of the systems out there. Clearly, it's going to look different in 5-10 years' time. There's going to be a lot more involvement of AI technology. There's going to be more speech rather than interaction with the screen, et cetera, et cetera. I think you'd be foolish to try and predict exactly where that's going to go. But I'm absolutely certain we're going to see a lot of changes, a lot more efficiency, and a lot more profitable businesses because of the introduction of AI tech. Travel 45, I mean, obviously, who knows? But I do think we're going to see, and people might be surprised to hear me say this, that because of over-tourism and because of the way the world seems to be going right now, where we're becoming so much more polarized, I just think there are going to be a lot more people who want to stay home and who are going to take advantage of technology, whether it's some sort of VR or AI or whatever technology to visit, in inverted quotes, and learn about foreign destinations without leaving their lounge room. Now, of course, I find that kind of ridiculous and upsetting. And I'd be wanting to give them a good shake and say, no, man, come on, get a passport, get on that flight and go visit. And they're going to say, have you seen how many people there are in Barcelona this summer? And they're right. There are too many. So I think more people are going to look for that opportunity or that option, and they're going to take it. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I just think that's a trend that we're going to see. Travel is the one industry where we, as the participants, we get together regularly. We meet, we talk, we build relationships that often turn into commercial relationships as well. And these relationships and partnerships tend to be maintained and sustained over many, many years. I'm not certain that's unique. If we define unique as there's only one, perhaps there is another industry like this. I just don't know what it is. But in my knowledge, travel is unique in the way that you can build and sustain relationships with people across the industry over a lifetime in that industry. And I think that's for those of us lucky enough to be in the travel space, and specifically in online travel, that's an incredibly beautiful thing.